Hi beautiful people, I'm Amber, this is Skittles, and welcome back to my critter castle. What? Okay guys, so, I know this is like another video so soon, but this is going to kind of be like a two-parter situation. I just kind of want to take a moment to discuss like something that's really been heavy on my mind, and I think it's kind of important to, especially in this kind of climate that we're going through, to use my newfound platform not only to bring like some educational videos, some fun videos with all of my animals, some love and happiness, but I also think it's especially important to speak about my own experience, especially as like a black woman in the veterinary field. Again, I want to state like this is my own personal experience. This is not to diminish anyone else's experience. There's obviously a variety of people in the veterinary field, but I want to bring light to the lack of diversity in our field and the toxic climate of the field. I do want to be very clear. I'm not going to use any names, obviously. I'm not here to slander anyone. If there are like any comments alluding to whom they think I'm talking about, or people that know me that want to speculate from where I used to work and pulling stories from there, I'm just going to delete those comments. They're really not necessary. I'm not coming on here to say anything negative to anyone. I just kind of want to put my own thoughts and emotions out there, because I'm very transparent as a person in general, anyone that knows me. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Alright guys, so I do want to make the disclaimer. I may or may not get emotional during this video, but I don't want that to take away from my words. I don't want to distract from the greater issue of the lack of diversity of the field, the microaggressions, the blatant racism, and just like the diminishing of like work ethic almost based on the color of one's skin. Obviously those are just like a few of the many issues within the field that I'll be covering, but I really want to be as clear as possible. I really want to be concise as possible. So I do have some notes, so if like you ever see me kind of like trying to gather myself, I'm just looking at and referencing my notes to kind of get things back on track. But as I stated in my very first video, I have been an animal lover since I could basically stand. And from a very young age that this is what I was meant to do. But I also learned very quickly that not everyone felt that I could succeed, slowly based on the color of my skin, which is very unfortunate. I can confidently say that I've experienced toxic work environments, elements of racism, microaggressions, all these things for about 80% of my career. But I do want to highlight that there were two clinics in particular that were kind of the reasons I held on. They were sprinkled in between like my beginnings and later years, but I really felt like they were the reasons I kept going. Because there were many times where I was like, if everyone else doesn't want me to do this, like maybe I just shouldn't do this. Maybe this isn't for me, because it was just such an uphill battle most days. And I'm sure anyone in the field can agree that our job is already so taxing on ourselves, our personalities, our emotions. This is a draining job. Anytime you work with animals and you work with the people that care for those animals, there are going to be emotional times. You're going to lose patients. You're going to lose patients that you possibly could have prevented, which is even worse of an see, doing it now. It's going to be an environment, where you're gonna be challenged in those ways. I do want to just say, in those two clinics, they genuinely made me feel like a part of their team. They really, I never really felt like there was any type of like barrier between who I actually was and just like being black. Like there was never any type of, there were never any issues, and it never really came up, which I feel like is the way it should be. I don't understand why, like, okay, yeah, you can see I'm black, whoa, that's so cool, like, I mean, it's cool being black, but like, it's just something I'm already aware of. It doesn't need to be like the focus of everything. So I did want to share a fond memory from one of the clinics. I was having a pretty horrid morning, and I was kind of working I like open and close some days. Like we're just all over the place in terms of scheduling. Some days we had really busy, some days we had really slow days, which any clinic, you could say that. But this day in particular was very hard for me. I'm very good at hiding my emotions. I know I say I'm transparent, but I do believe that if you can try to leave those things at home, and I do like working because it would help me kind of just put that away to kind of get through the day, and then I can, by the time I get home, sometimes I don't even know why I was upset, and that's what the goal should be. But I remember this day, I was just cleaning a room, and she kind of came in behind me, shut the door, and just placed her hand on my shoulder and said, hey, like, I could just tell, like, your energy was off, like, is everything okay? And I just, when someone asks you if you're okay and you're not okay, you just start boohoo crying. I was sobbing and sobbing and sobbing, but she listened. And it was about some heavy stuff. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that, but she listened, and I never felt like, from that moment on, she never like used that against me because I was like vulnerable in that moment, which I think is one of my biggest issues. I don't want anyone to use anything negative against me, which kind of makes no sense. I'm just like, I used to be a people pleaser, used to have a really hard time with codependency, but working through all of those things and really kind of understanding where those things come from has helped me grow as a person just in general. And I think it's one of the reasons I can even make this video in the first place, to kind of reflect back on all of my experience and know, hey, that was not your fault. That is healing for me. But moving along, I follow a black female vet on YouTube named The Modern Vet, which I will definitely link in the description below. I love just hearing her own take on things in the veterinary field as a black doctor, and then also being female. But I found her statistic of the amount of black people in the vet field a little terrifying. It's 2% that we make up those demographics in vet med, and that's alarming. Like, it's alarming. Like, why aren't there that many of us? That I can't answer for you. I will say that I've had my own experiences where, my name's Amber. I've gone in, I've applied for a place, I've gone in, and I could see like the look on their face, like, oh, we didn't know that you were black. Like, obviously they didn't come out and say that, but it's like definitely that obvious, like, did not know you were black. Or I've literally gotten, oh, we didn't know, African American people liked animals. Which is interesting because you still have clients that come in with their pets, but I guess they meant in the fact of, or in the respect of like working with them, like professionally. I'm not sure. Didn't make any sense to me. I don't think it should have been said. But moving back onward to where I was getting to the blatant racism, the disgusting behavior over my years in vet med. And I actually discussed this topic with my parents, especially when I was first thinking that I wanted to be a veterinarian. In my previous video, I said I switched to the route of veterinary technician, which is still the route that I'm on currently. But when I told them that this was the route that I wanted to take, they immediately just like, okay, that's what you want. Like, here's some reading material. Here are the best vet schools in our state or near our state if you're going to go out of state. My dad even helped me make like a spreadsheet on like in-state versus out-of-state costs, so I could see, what that would add up for undergrad, then, going, back for my doctorate, things like that. So I was prepared at a very young age what to expect. That alone was probably one of the biggest factors that helped me kind of understand what I needed and understand my chances. And even with all of that information, I still said, yeah, I can do this. I know I'm smart. I know I work hard. I know that my passion for animals is there, and I don't have to prove that to anyone, right? Wrong. So, in my vet experience, I guess I'll start in the beginning. I'm pretty sure everyone has gone through this where, like, okay, you made this decision, but you need experience to get anywhere. It's like, how do you get experience when you never had experience? So, I started out in, like, other animal related care fields, so like grooming or like kennel work or things like that, to just kind of get my foot in the door, which did help and eventually moved me up to working in clinics. And I will say, probably my like veterinary experience was all pretty pleasant. It's pretty routine. Grooming is pretty straightforward. Busy, obviously. Everyone wants their pooch to look wonderful. But those weren't really the issues. It really was stepping into the clinical setting of veterinary medicine that I started to have issues. Well, very first clinic, and I'm ecstatic to start my career, in veterinary medicine. And so far, things were going really well. I was just like kennel / learning to be an assistant. They do have like lots of programs where you can take classes on how to get like a certificate of being a vet assistant, but I mean, honestly, it's so much easier to just, if you can, get experience working under, technicians or other assistants, or, the doctor even, as being their assistants, and getting that hands-on training so you kind of know, what you're getting yourself into. So very first clinic, things were going really well. I'm just doing kennel work, but I kept expressing, hey, like, I am really interested, like, if you need any extra help. And then they were like, hey, this girl's really serious, like, let's train her as a floater. And by floater, I mean, we'll train her in multiple aspects of the job, so that if anywhere we're like out or we need an extra hand, we would have that person. So I did, reception, I worked in kennel, I worked assisting in rooms, like I was just doing, at one point, just processing on the lab results, like different forms of experience, so I could float and fit whatever they needed, which helped me in the long run. I feel like I'm very good at multitasking, so I felt like that was a good way for me to kind of see and expect, especially when things would get busier. So I noticed that one of the technicians there was kind of like, that I typically worked with, I was more in an evening shift in the beginning because I was still in college, and it was kind of like, hey, like, she's like picking up these things pretty fast, like the nights are getting easier, like we're finishing earlier, like, just kind of giving me a pat on the back, like, we should move this girl up when it is time. And it's kind of hard because around this time, like, some clinics were kind of selling out to corporate places, which is, that's their prerogative. But like in those changes and exchanges of power, we would get more employees that necessarily weren't like used to being almost in the field, but like just knew like the corporate side of it, like the goals we need to meet, the deadlines we need to meet, the amount of capital that we need to be bringing in, things like that. So kind of more of like a business side of the field, which is definitely relevant, but it's hard to balance that when it's like a compassion-based field. But I do specifically remember this instance, once these exchanges of power kind of switched over, and while that was happening, they were saying like, hey, we're going to need to hire more people because of the corporation, and then they're like, hey, this girl is learning really fast, let's move her up and hire someone like below, like things like that. And I remember them moving my shift to day instead of evening, which was fine because my schedule had changed, and I was able to accommodate that. So I'm like, sweet, like I'm moving on up, right? So the specific technician I was working for at the time, or with rather, I remember them teaching me how to restrain for jugular venipuncture, getting blood from the neck of an animal. And in this instance, it was a really big dog, and really big dogs, sometimes they have like a vein the size of a fire hose. So it's like really, you can't essentially miss, and it's really good for teaching opportunities. Obviously, there's different body compositions, and things that you think are there aren't there sometimes, and that's just the nature of the game. But I remember in this instance, she's like, okay, hold it like this, and, I'll go here. And, I'm like, okay, is this right? Like, constantly trying to get coaching. I'm like, this fine, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, sweet, I'm doing it right. I'm learning something else. It's animal restraint. And I remember her throwing an uncapped syringe at me, the same syringe she had just tried to go into this animal's vein and get blood from. She chucked it at me and proceeded to yell at me saying, oh, I can't get this blood because you obviously don't know how to hold. And it was just kind of like, I'm younger, I'm like, oh, it is my fault, I'm so sorry, like, what did I do wrong? And, I started to learn that it was kind of like, not me at all. Just one of those things that I really don't know why she did that to me to this day, honestly. It was very, like, yikes. Now that I kind of think back at it, it was just kind of like an unnecessary burst of negative energy that I still don't know why they did that. I do remember, like, trying to be like, hey, like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? And I remember downplaying it, just saying, like, she's just like, I just don't think we, like, mesh. Like, I don't think, I would be, like, a good fit for her. Like, I kept trying to say, like, it's not her, it's me. Maybe I just should be moved, just to another person, or so I can learn somewhere else, so I'm not, upsetting her flow because I'm so new, I don't know anything. But then I was starting to realize that it was never me. It was definitely this person's own issues. They were in turn lashing out on me. There's also a lot of competition in the vet field. I've noticed that, like, if someone sees you rising, they automatically think they're coming for my job. Like, I have to stop them at all costs. Which really, I don't think that makes sense, because you would want someone that is on the same level as you, so you can get the help when you need it, and we can work as a team. Like, this is a team-driven field as well. So you can never just do it all by yourself. You can try, but you're going to be burnt out so fast, and it's just not worth it. And it was kind of at this moment where I realized that I would probably need to work at least 200% harder to occupy the same spaces as my white colleagues. I was the only person of color at majority of the places I worked. And I really shouldn't even stop at person of color. I should just specifically say black person. There has been some other ethnicities and things that I've worked with, albeit short times, long times. So I just don't want to say person of color. I'm going to say black person. At most of my clinics, I was the only one, which, I mean, I was kind of already expecting that in the field because I had heard that so much. Like, part of, like, even just growing up on my own and other people telling me, like, black people never do that, or you'll probably get into school super easy because there's not a lot of black people, completely diminishing my smarts and all the work that I put in, just diminishing all of that and just putting that under the umbrella of, like, you'll get it, you're black. And I'm like, that's not even real, first of all. But it really did kind of set up some, I don't even know what you want to call it, some negative stereotypes in my head, and almost kind of, I had to unlearn a lot of brainwashing to know that it was not me. It was never me. There's a lot of systemic racism, just stereotypes that are out there that people really think, how black people are portrayed on TV. People really think this black person will act like that because I saw it on TV, or I read it in a book, or I saw it on the internet. Like, some people really think that you can judge that person based off of that. That is a real thing. That's not going away. I hope it does, but I think it's going to take a lot of a learning that is just so ingrained right now. Through my years, I would endure numerous microaggressions. And what I mean by microaggressions is sometimes these microaggressions you're not even aware of. They're little, you could generically compare it to stereotypes. You could directly link it to stereotypes. So like, oh, as you can see, I'm bald today. I cut my dreadlocks off. But like I would wear wigs and weaves, and I love to express myself through my hair. That's always been my thing. And it would be like, how did you change your hair length overnight? Or wow, you wear a lot of weaves. Or I bet there's nothing up under there anymore with how much you change it. Or just like outlandish things. Or sees a clump of dog hair on the floor. Was that yours? Like those types of things are microaggressions. It's like sometimes you would think, oh, it's just harmless, they're just playing, but you think about how often it's being done and repeated towards a lot of people of color. Like that's just, it's just insane. Like it's almost like I can't even compare it because it's just it's disgusting to me. So I'm not even going to try to liken that to any. I think it's just disgusting. People should stop it. Another good microaggression that happened to me was a elderly black woman. I had gone into the room and I had gotten history on her pet, and I was like talking to her for quite some time, and I exited the room. Well, she took that time to tell, the vet that I was setting up the room for, like, I'm so happy to see, a woman of color here. I've been, had animals for years. I've gone to multiple clinics, and I don't typically see people that look like me in this field. And it was just, like, refreshing. And I remember that doctor diminishing it, saying, well, like, essentially, like, yeah, but I'm mixed with black, too. Like, can't you tell? Like, I wasn't really sure what that meant in that moment. Like, I don't know why the validation of, like, it's cool to be black right now because she was excited about it. So let me say I'm mixed with black when you're, like, clearly, like, not at all. And it was very, like, and then looking to me for, like, acceptance. And I was just kind of like, yikes, no, I'm not going to help in this situation. Or waving charts in my face, clicking pins in my face. These are just genuinely disrespectful things that I wouldn't see my white colleagues doing to another white colleague. Maybe I would see it like in regards to men doing it to women. I could probably argue that, and I've seen like that kind of disrespect just from like a sexism standpoint. But I really did feel at some times that I was getting like the brunt of things, or I wasn't, or it was like easier to pick on me. And I know just my personality in general is kind of easy to pick on me because I don't say much, because I don't give those types of energies my energy anymore. But at the same time, I think maybe they thought it was just easier because if I said anything, then they could just turn it into the narrative of, oh, well, she's just an angry black woman type of thing. And I didn't want it to be that. Which is sad that I can't voice my opinions or tell someone they're blatantly racist to me, or say, hey, that's not okay, or stick up to myself in any form or fashion without being told, like, well, you're just being angry, or, that doesn't exist, essentially. Just kind of dismissing my pain, and that happens a lot in society anyway, so why would I be surprised if that translates in my field of work? I do also have another little story I'll get into where there was a weekend. So, if we worked a weekend, typically if it was like, we'd have like one or two lesser doctors, lesser staff, because it's the weekend, it's a shorter shift. And I remember finally standing up for myself, finally being like, you are being rude to me. Like, you don't need to like yell at me. It was just like an excessive amount of yelling that day, and it was just like everything you do is wrong. And I'm like sweating at this point, running all over the place, getting all these tech appointments, loading rooms, like cleaning. And so like we're not here until the wee hours of the night trying to wrap up, a short shift. And it was just kind of like the second I said like, hey, like, can you seriously stop talking to me like that? Like, I don't deserve that. That person decided like I just didn't exist. Like, I'll put up this wall because how dare they try to say like I'm mean. Like, it's you. Like, it's you. So that person proceeded to act like I didn't exist the rest of that shift. Like, I would have to put the chart down for them to grab it and look at it. Or I would have to tell another assistant, can you please give them this? This is the fecal results, or this was the blood work. Like, that was the entire shift of them not acknowledging my own existence. Like, the dehumanization of it all. It's that for me, you know? And when I brought it up, it was just kind of like, how dare you, you know, call me harsh? How dare you tell me I'm doing anything negative against you? Needless to say, that place was probably one of the worst experiences. That was not my typical experience in clinics, but that was definitely almost the downfall of me. That clinic, I will admit, was just unorganized. There was a lot of favoritism. There was a lot of racism. There was a lot of microaggressions. There was a lot of sexism. There was a lot of unprofessionalism. And I really do think that played into my compassion fatigue and a subsequent burnout. You know, leaving that place and going onward, it was so hard for me to unlearn so many negative things that I had brought with me, to the point where managers would pull me aside and be like, are you okay? Like, I would apologize for like the weirdest things. I can't even give you an example right now. The weirdest things are something would happen completely out of my control and I would like blame myself. They were like, you weren't even, like, to the extent like you weren't even here that shift. like that insane that it took me that long to be like, it's not you. Or, you know, like I said, I'm in veterinary technician school, and as part of like an online program, because I wanted to work while I was in, you know, because I had to work, really, I couldn't just move away and like be there with no income. You know, I have to have paperwork signed and videos filmed, and it was like during the interview, I'm telling you this, you hire me, you sign these documents, like these legally binding documents saying you'll help me, but then stop me at every turn. Well, you know, I don't pay you to do this on the clock. Or, okay, I'll come in after the clock. Well, no, we can't have, you know, people coming after hours. Okay, well, maybe I can like come on a weekend, or just come on a day that I'm not scheduled. But that was kind of hard because I was in school and working almost every day. So it was kind of like, I will do anything, but it was just kind of like always something in the way. And then I found out they were just like, we're never going to hire her as a technician anyway. Like, basically, she's just wasting her time. Instead of just telling me that and leading me astray, you know, but what can you say? Or when I left said place, finally got the courage to do so, I was alerted by someone I knew there that we had like music playing through the clinic at all times, and it was either funk or rap. It was one of the two. I can't remember. It was so many years ago. But they were like, oh, like black music? That must have been Amber hacking the system. What? Like, what? Knock it off. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what? Why would I even, yep, I'm going to just hack them away today. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, that was not even, and I left on my own accord. Anyway, it was just one of those things where it's kind of like, it's so far-fetched, but it's like, that actually happened. And it's just like insane to me. And it was just to the point where I felt like crying in my car, physically ill before shifts, hiding in bathrooms to give myself a pep talk to make it through, like severely damaging my mental health to where it was encroaching upon my physical health, all for the sake of a field that I was so passionate for. And honestly, like, it was horrible. So I kind of took those experiences with me everywhere I go, and it was just so like, it just really weighed down on me for years. And I feel like everyone should come forward with what their experiences, if they were wronged, and you need to not be afraid to say, like, this is not okay. And if you're working with someone and you're witnessing that, you need to say something. Like, you cannot be complicit in that. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about how the competition was. It was kind of like, well, if I say anything, then that will probably lessen my chances at advancement and things like that. But again, it's like, you really want to sacrifice that to overlook something this heavy? And it just kind of, it showed me a lot over the years who really was in my corner, which is fine. It's fine. But I just thought it was important to, like, really highlight these issues. I just feel like so many people have stories, and it doesn't even, like, stop at racism. Like, sexual harassment, like, instances cause trauma, and sometimes you're not ready to disclose that trauma or talk about these things until years later, and that's also okay. At the end of the day, it's your story to tell, and I wanted to just kind of come on here and just, it's been years of just really feeling like it was me, and knowing now, like, I know I'm smart, like, I know I'm passionate, I know that I just know that my love for animals, it shines through, and I know that people take that more than they take the color of my skin. It just took a lot of negative experiences, typically with people in power or people who just had a complex with them, of some sorts, that they just had to be the very best at all times. It just took a long time to realize it wasn't me. And I kind of just don't want anyone else to feel like it's them. Like, because sometimes it's not. I mean, hey, if you know it was you and you messed up and blah, 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 and maybe you, God forbid, like, killed an animal, and you're taking that with you, obviously that's a different situation. But in terms of, race, it's like, it is heavy. It's like, there's just not enough of us. And I think the small number of us that there are, we need to start pointing it out when it's wrong. I do think it is a lot easier in this time. 2020 has brought forward a lot of negativity, and I feel like people are finally starting to point the finger and be like, this is not okay, this is not right. Like, it's definitely an era of peace and accountability that I feel like is coming forward now, and obviously that wasn't around years ago. So I do think we're making strides, but man, it was rough living through it. It was rough. It was day in and day out, just like the little comments, the big things. I can't even, there's just so many, like, instances swirling through my head. I know, like, I'm not even, like, on a coherent track anymore. And I did want to also highlight, I want to make this a 2-part video. Like, 1 is my experience, but the part 2 will be more about compassion fatigue, burnout in veterinary medicine, what those mean, and signs of them. I'm working with veterinarians that I'm still close with. I've gotten medical journals, I've gotten articles that I'm reading on compassion fatigue with, statistics and things like that. So I do want to bring that information forward too, to just kind of, like, make you aware that is a real thing. And when you're starting to see, or if you ever start to see yourself exhibiting any of those symptoms, to kind of, like, really check in with yourself, your mental health. Because I always say this, and it does sound harsh, but, like, if you drop dead today, like, your job will replace you. Like, and it's not going to be like, oh, we'll reserve this one spot on the team forever because she passed. Like, no, like, they will replace you. You will be a memory. You can't let them take all of you to where you can't give any to yourself. So I just wanted to highlight that. Again, there's so many more stories, and I don't think I really need to kind of go through every single one, because really it's just gonna, like, probably trigger me, trigger others, and it's just not necessary. I just wanted to bring to light that this is real. For the majority of my experiences as a black female in America, period, has been mostly negative. and then let alone in a primarily white dominated field, has been even more. Like, just think of like being called girl, you know? It's like if a colleague calls me girl and I can't tell the connotation. Are you calling me girl because you're older than me, I'm a female, and you look at me because I'm much younger, like, come here, girl? Is it the, you know, come here, girl, like, is it sexualized? Or is it girl because you're likening me to someone beneath you, like a slave girl type of thing? And it's like, again, all these levels is what's swirling through, like, every time I'm in an interaction, especially with a non-person of color. It's like, where is this conversation going? Like, I've definitely, like I said, have had the visible face change when a black girl named Amber comes in, or when I start talking and I start doing my medical documents and I start using the jargon that we use in the medical field, the just like, oh wow, you're actually really smart. Like, it's those things that are just really like, and it's so hard to discern if I'm being held accountable for my mistakes or they're just holding me lower as far as expectations because of the color of my skin. So I know this was kind of all jumbled. I really did want to kind of come on here and try to stay on track as much as possible. I think that it's necessary, you know, again, this is necessary for everyone to come out, you know. Your experience is yours alone. It's never to diminish another person's. It's to honestly relieve yourself too, and to just get that feedback. And when you put that out there, you sometimes give a person that is in your same position the courage to be like, oh, you know, that light bulb comes on. It wasn't me. Like, this actually happened to another person. And I just think that's so important. So I know it kind of took a little detour from the whole creature features fun castle bit, but this was necessary. I think this could really help people, and, you know, over my years of healing, it's helped me to come to realize that, you know, it was never always just me. But I do think how we handle these things, how we move forward, how we respectfully dismantle this racism. And, you know, it's always funny because there's this debate because, you know, this act can be so disgusting towards you. It's like, why do I have to be the calm one? But it's like, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. That's what we've all learned. But your right is your right, and if you're being mistreated, you should stand up for yourself. You definitely should, and don't ever let anyone take that away from you. So again, thank you guys. I'm here to answer any questions. I know, again, this is kind of like all over the place. But if you have any questions at all, or, you know, or if I can point you in the direction to any type of resources you might need, or, you know, if you just need someone to listen, I will listen to you. Like, I don't even have to give my opinion, or, you know, just if you need someone to listen, like, I will listen to you, and I think we all need that. Thank you for watching this video. My name's Amber. Thank you so much for clicking into my critter castle once again. Take care.